Thank you very much, Jean-Luc. So I'm very pleased to be here, and actually I did start my career in aerospace industry, aerospatial, so you were close. That's not direct, but that's me. So it's very special for me to be here in Toulouse, which combines these two big industries. So I would like to first introduce you Faurecia and explain you what we do. So first, we're a big supplier, big tier one, French tier one of the big 10. And how big we are? So 1/3 of the cars which are produced in the world has an equipment from Faurecia inside. So it's quite impressive. We got now, since this year, 4 key activities. We call that business groups: seatings, interiors, clean mobility, and electronics. And I will come deeper in that to explain you what we do and what are behind these words. Few words, so 122,000 employees worldwide, so 300 sites as you can see there, so very big as my previous colleagues as well, and also keen in having R&D and engineering activities. So what are the activities we have? Clean mobility, with taking care of, let's say, the legacy of exhaust, and also focusing now on clean mobility with some fuel cell system that we provide to the market. Number one in that activity on the market. I'll let you read the figures there in the sake of time, not to be too preached by Jean-Luc. Seating is also a very strong activity for Faurecia. Number one, number two, depending on the equipment we are delivering there, but having the full capability of complete seat from mechanism, frame to foam and covers. Interiors, also worldwide leader there. We are number one on interiors, meaning instrument panel, door panels, and other equipments. And last but not least, in the challenger positions with Clarion, because Faurecia is also changing. So as our world is evolving a lot, Faurecia is now moving to a more digital world. And this year we acquired Automotive, also Clarion Electronics, and Coagent. And we merge all these into a new business group called Faurecia Clarion Electronics. So we talked a lot this morning about how to move the car, and what I'd like to talk to you now is what is happening inside the car, so in the interior of the car, just to give you a little change of it. So first, how we deal with that, with what we want to do, and you and I and our customer wants to do inside the car. We are focusing on the trends. I won't spend time on this one because my dear colleagues and customers talk a lot about that, so you know that. But maybe spending some time on this one, where you see this is also part of the DNA of Faurecia. So first is safety. Safety because it's keen. It's coming also from the legacy of seats, of course, but it's also an expectations that we have as a user of the cars. And intriguingly, these 4 trends like safety, well-being, sociality, and affordability are well resonating with what PSA and Renault just presented to us before. So well-being is how you feel comfortable and everything is very easy to you in the car. Social conscious is also something which is keen for us on being responsible for the future, so also called sustainability by other presenter before. And affordability because this is also a key item we need to focus on because our car must be affordable for all. So how we do that? We decided to create an initiative a couple of years ago within Faurecia Group, and this initiative is called Cockpit of the Future. And the Cockpit of the Future is basically focusing on what will be the cockpit for a car, merging the three main activities that were presented before, so interiors, seating, and electronics. And we are then looking for what would be the new concept, what would be the new solutions for user in the car. How we do that? The thing we have as tier one is that we are not in contact of the end user of the product we are developing and manufacturing. This is the OEM, of course. So what we want to do with Cognitive of the Future, we want actually to put the user in the center of our concern, and that's what we have to do with this new process. So you see there, this spiral is basically to ensure we are really focusing on the user. So we start with the trend that I mentioned before, and we also start with a consumer understanding. So really what the consumer wants to do, what the pain point of the consumer, and what would be a good benefit for them. And basically, once we got these informations, we also focus on our customer, basically the OEM or the mobility provider. And also what was interesting is the way the OEM presented themselves today is being a mobility provider. And we also need to focus on that to understand what is important for them. And then we have also a third input, which is the technology. And we combine that in a meaningful combinations that will create an interesting user experience for the end user. And then we work like a more traditional test and trial approach in order to ensure that the user experience we've developed is really answering a key questions for the end user. And you see here basically few words and few processes on this approach. And this approach is quite interesting because that allows us to develop for the OEM the right interiors of the car of the future. I'd like also to give you some comparison to another industry, so not aerospace industry today, but consumer electronics. And if you look at the way these have evolved over time, and you see there coming from the first phone, like a Motorola phone or old Nokia phone, up to pick one you want, could be iPhone or Samsung. You see that basically, in terms of user, we had this kind of curve of mechanical interactions points. This has been decreasing in the recent time, and intriguingly, the size of the displays have been significantly increasing. And if you do the same comparison with the interior of the car, you will see similar curves for mechanical interface and similar curve for the visual, the display interface. If you look from, let's say, old cars in the 50s, and then the will come soon, let's say, Byton, which will have pillar-from-pillar displays, which is the extreme, of course, situation we can find. So the comparison of that brings me to a conclusion that not only we have similar approach, but we have also an increase of intelligence in the cockpit that is coming. And what means intelligence there? It's based on the Merriam-Webster definitions, is how we learn, how we understand a situation we didn't know before, or we are just trying to understand. And this intelligence is not intelligence only for the occupant of the car, but it's also for the system. So the system inside the car must become also intelligence to do two things that I wanted to show you today. One is to adapt. So the future of the car will need to adapt to the user and not the opposite. And it's very simple to say that, but I can tell you, it's very difficult to develop and to put in place. And the other second thing about intelligence is predictions. Is really to be able to anticipate what will happen. What will happen for the end user, so what will be, let's say, his next actions he wants to do or he will have to do, and what will happen also in the environment. So if we combine all these two, let's say, actions about adaptations and predictions, you understand that the challenge of interior of the car is very new for us as automotive, let's say, actors, suppliers and car maker. And that's what makes also the challenge of interiors of the future very, very interesting. I don't know, Jean-Luc, do you have still time or? Okay, so the other thing I wanted to tell you, and I will finish on that, is how we basically incarn that into some products that create the right experience, and I will be able then to show hopefully a short movie if it works. So you see there also the combination of all what is important for interiors, look and feel, the materials that we continue to work on at Faurecia, but also the technology that we integrate into the product, like getting sound bubbles in seats, for example, getting connectivity in the instrument panel, and comfort for any kind of position in the car. Because what will come also is that you have to consider that what you will do in the car is maybe something new, something we don't know and we don't have the habit to do today, but we will do more in the future in the car. So my conclusion is basically we'd like to inspire mobility, and I would thank you very much for your attention.